Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into, well, a true blueprint for creative power, lasting impact, and honestly, some serious business genius. We're looking at the incredible legacy of James Harris III and Terry Lewis. You know them better as Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Our goal here, pretty simple, really. We want to give you the fast track to understanding how these two did way more than just write hits. They crafted a sound, defined a whole look and feel, and maybe the most impressive part, built this huge business structure that still shapes R&B and pop today.
Oh, absolutely. And the scope of their work is just, it's huge. You go from those early game changers like the S.O.S. band's Just Be Good to Me, Alexander O'Neal's Fake, all the way to Janet Jackson's Control album, which was a total revolution. And then they even hit #1 with, British synth pop icons, The Human League.
Human, what a track.
Exactly. And what's really key here, what we really need to unpack for you, is that they weren't just following trends, they were making them. They started Flyte Tyme Productions, and they showed everyone you could blend cutting-edge tech with real, genuine soul, and then scale that globally. It was a whole new model.
It really was. So for you listening, we're going to trace how they did it, and it starts somewhere kind of unexpected. Minneapolis, Minnesota. You don't usually think of Minneapolis as like a global R&B hub, right? Not like LA or New York.
Not at all. But it was this incredibly tight, unique scene. I mean, it gave us Prince, Morris Day, and of course, Jam and Lewis.
And their backgrounds are pure music. Jimmy Jam, he's from Minneapolis, music's in his blood. His dad, Cornbread Harris, was a local jazz and blues legend. Terry Lewis, he came from Omaha, met Jam when they were teenagers.
He was at some summer program, right?
Yeah.
Upward Bound at the University of Minnesota. That's the one. And that meeting was just crucial. They were both instrument fanatics, not just about beats. Jam on keys, Lewis holding it down on bass. And musicianship. That's the secret ingredient later on. It's why their production always felt so musical. They weren't just programming machines. They were arranging, playing. Big difference.
Started a band first, Flyte Tyme, named after a Donald Byrd song, Flyte Tyme. Had Monty Moore, Jelly Bean Johnson too. Solid lineup.
Yeah, and that band basically fed directly into Prince's project, The Time.
Ah, The Time.
Legendary.
Being in The Time was like getting a PhD in music boot camp, basically. Studio chops, stage presence, Prince demanded the absolute best. But, and this is a big but, Prince had tight reins. Very tight. Creatively, they were restricted. No outside production work allowed.
I can see how that would cause friction, especially for guys with their own ideas bubbling up.
Exactly, that tension, it was bound to snap. And it did, spectacularly. Which leads us to that famous firing, right? But it actually started with their first big independent gig. This was early '83, still technically in The Time, but they sneak off to produce the S.O.S. band for Taboo Records.
Yep, down in Atlanta.
And the track they cut, Just Be Good to Me. Wow, that song basically is the early Flyte Tyme sound blueprint, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
That spacey feel, the funk, but futuristic, using drum machines, those lush synths. It was totally different from the live horns and drums dominating R&B then.
So different, much cooler, more modern sounding.
And incredibly influential. But here's the kicker. While they're finishing up in Atlanta, this massive snowstorm hits. Freak weather event.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Strands them. They miss a gig with Prince back on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And Prince, well, Prince in control.
You didn't take that well, I'm guessing.
Not at all. Fired them immediately on the spot. Gone from The Time.
Wow. Just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah.
But honestly, best thing that could have happened to their careers.
Really?
Yeah.
Seems terrifying.
Well, I'm sure it was. But it forced their hand. It basically launched Flyte Tyme Productions. They reused the band name as their full-time focus. No safety net.
Okay, but hold on. Let's pause there. Going from a steady gig with Prince, a superstar, to suddenly being completely on your own, that's a huge risk, right? Financially, logistically, how'd they pull that off?
That's a great point. And yeah, it was a huge risk. They didn't have time for a slow buildup. They needed hits, like yesterday. But remember, Just Be Good to Me. That wasn't just a creative blueprint. It was a hit. It gave them immediate cash flow and, crucially, credibility with labels like Taboo.
Ah, okay, so the S.O.S. success gave them a running start.
Exactly. They bet everything on themselves and their sound. They knew they had something unique the market wanted, that pressure, that necessity. It forced them to really define and formalize that sound.
Okay, so let's get into that sound. Decode it for us. What makes a Jam and Lewis track instantly recognizable, even now? It's not like those other kind of stiff, early synth tracks.
Right. It's the warmth. Those lush analog synth pads washing over everything. And the bass line's thick, melodic, always grooving.
And the drums, they used specific machines, right? Lindrum. Oberheim DMX.
Yeah, especially the Lindrum early on. That was key because it used actual sampled drum sounds, so it sounded crisper, punchier than older drum machines.
Gotcha. But it wasn't just the tech, was it?
Not at all. This is where their musician skills come back in. They balanced the tech with soul. The Lindrum provided the precise beat, yeah, but they played the keyboards, the bass lines, often live. And here's a really cool detail about their philosophy. They were known for deliberately nudging notes slightly off the grid in the sequencer.
Off the grid, what does that mean for someone listening?
Okay, so on the grid means every note hits perfectly on the beat, mathematically perfect, which can sound, well, robotic, stiff. By nudging notes just a tiny bit milliseconds early or late, they introduced this human feel, a little push and pull. It made the machines breathe, you know? It gave the groove life, that groove with grace idea.
Groove with grace. I like that. And that meticulous approach, that perfect blend of tech and feel that led them straight to Janet Jackson.
The perfect storm. Janet, pre-1986, she had put out 2 albums, but they hadn't really clicked, didn't capture her. She was kind of stuck in the family shadow.
Right, and she wanted out. Musically, professionally, she wanted independence.
Her label, A&M, made a brilliant move, pairing her with Jam and Lewis. They basically handed them the reins for a complete creative reboot.
And the result was Control, which wasn't just an album, it felt like a declaration.
Totally, a manifesto. And Jam and Lewis, they didn't just write songs for her, they encouraged her to co-write, to put her own assertive, confident voice into the lyrics. Think Nasty, What Have You Done For Me Lately, the title track Control.
Yeah, those songs hit hard, still do.
Because they were real. They were acting almost like creative directors, finding the sound that Minneapolis funk meets pop hooks to deliver her message. Female empowerment took a huge leap forward with that album.
The impact was insane. Sold, over 10 million? It completely redefined Janet Jackson, made her a superstar in her own right.
Absolutely. And what's also important is they didn't just do it once. They evolved with her. The follow-up, Rhythm Nation 1814, darker, harder beats, social commentary.
Yeah.
It showed incredible growth.
And that partnership lasted for decades. The Velvet Rope, Janet, All For You, amazing run. But let's talk versatility, because it wasn't just R&B. You mentioned the Human League earlier. How does that fit British synth pop?
That Crash album from '86 is such a fascinating case study. It really proves the universality of their approach.
How so?
Well, the Human League, legendary as they were kind of stuck. Their sound had become maybe a bit too complex, maybe lost on the emotional core.
Okay.
Jam and Lewis came in and essentially coached them. Simplify the songwriting, focus on the feeling, inject some of that R&B soulfulness, even into synth pop.
And it worked.
Big time. The single Human, which Jam and Lewis actually wrote, went to #1 globally. It showed their method, precision, plus soul worked anywhere.
Wow. That must have opened a lot of doors.
Definitely. It paved the way for other big pop collaborations, like producing George Michael's #1 hit Monkey. It proved they weren't confined to one genre.
So they've got the sound locked down. They've proven they can cross genres. Now let's talk business, because they didn't just make hits. They built an empire around them. Building Flyte Tyme Studios in Edina, Minnesota, that was a big move.
Huge move. Strategic.
Why build their own state-of-the-art place way out there? Why not just rent time in LA or New York like everyone else?
Control. And focus. Building their own studio meant they could work whenever they wanted, however they wanted, without watching the clock and the budget ticking away on expensive rental fees. Plus, bringing artists to them in Minnesota took them out of the usual industry madness of LA or New York. Fewer distractions, fewer suits dropping by. It created this focused, creative bubble.
A hit factory, as it became known.
Exactly. Total immersion in the Flyte Tyme world. And that desire for control reached its peak in the early 90s when they launched their own label, Perspective Records, through A&M.
Okay, now that's next level. Owning the whole pipeline.
That's the definition of owning the ecosystem. They weren't just making the records anymore. They were signing the artists, developing them, distributing them, all based on their values: musicianship, positivity.
You saw that with the acts they signed, right? Mint Condition, Breaking My Heart, Sounds of Blackness, Optimistic. Such quality, sophisticated stuff.
Absolutely. It wasn't just about chasing radio trends. It was about building a community of artists they believed in.
So what's the big business lesson there for creatives listening today?
It's that triple threat model. They controlled the creative side, the production facility, and the distribution channel via the label. That meant they maximized their profit and minimized outside interference. They went from being, highly paid producers for hire to actual moguls.
And that control let them stay relevant for so long, adapting through the 90s, the 2000s, even with grunge and hip-hop taking over. They still delivered massive hits.
Yeah, they navigated those shifts brilliantly. Think Boys II Men's On Bended Knee.
Yeah.
Huge ballad. Then working with Mary J. Blige, Mariah Carey, they kept their quality insanely high.
Their role evolved too, right? Moving to LA, Flyte Tyme West.
Right. By the early 2000s, it was less about being in the trenches 24/7 and more about stepping into executive and mentorship roles. Jimmy Jam especially became a major industry voice, chairman of the Recording Academy multiple times, really advocating for artists and producers.
And then, almost like coming full circle, they released their own album in 2021, Jam and Lewis Volume 1.
Yeah, under their own names, which felt like the final stamp, bringing back all their greatest collaborators, Usher, Tony Braxton, Boys II Men again. Just beautiful, timeless music made with that same care.
So, when you look at the whole picture, what's the ultimate legacy?
I think it's multifaceted. They definitely paved the way for producer duos who came later, like the Neptunes. That model owes a lot to Jam and Lewis. But maybe even more importantly, they changed the dynamic between artist and producer. It wasn't dictatorial, it was partnership, collaboration. Janet Jackson calling them her musical brothers. That says it all, doesn't it?
It really does. So, boiling it down for everyone listening today, what are the key takeaways from their story? I see maybe 3 main pillars.
Go for it.
Okay, first, absolute mastery of the craft. They knew music inside out, instruments, arranging, tech, foundational.
Couldn't agree more. Pillar 1.
Second, deep collaboration. No massive egos getting in the way. They served the artist vision, tailored the sound, respect.
Pillar 2. Crucial.
And third, longevity through infrastructure. Building the studio, launching the label, they built an ecosystem they could control and sustain. Smart business.
Pillar 3. Owning your world. That model, controlling your tools, your masters, your identity, that's the big lesson for today. It's why they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Creative freedom and business savvy.
2 sides of the same coin.
Precisely. Which brings us to a final thought for you to chew on. Remember how their biggest breakthrough, Flyte Tyme Productions, happened right after Prince fired them for wanting creative freedom?
Yeah, the ultimate pivot.
Exactly. So the question for you is this. When in your own life, your own career has a major setback, maybe getting fired, a project failing, a door slamming shut actually turned out to be the most fertile ground, the necessary push for your next big leap forward. Think about the power in that pivot. We'll get you on the next deep dive.